I think it's time for winners and losers, Isaac.
Yeah, I'd like to start with winners because it's most related to what we were just talking
Interesting.
about.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I am going to give my winners this week to the Longest Ballot Committee because they have, I think, effectively achieved what they sought out to do with this initiative. The initiative itself, and I'll say it because this is what they sought out to do, is they're in protest of the first past the post system, right? And they have been able to gain a lot of news coverage and media attention. They might change the election nomination rules going forward to not allow groups like this to have an effect in the future, but for the time being they are having an effect. They're having an effect on the discourse, and they're having an effect on the discourse enough that people keep saying their name, that people will Google it, maybe look into first past the post voting, see the problems with it, maybe understand why other countries don't use it in terms of representation. So I think they have been effective in this initiative, and they're my winners this week.
Interesting. Hold that thought. My winner this week is my winner this week is Pierre Poilievre. Because of the Longest Ballot Committee, they have made it more difficult, actually, for anyone to effectively challenge him in this by-election. They've made it much easier for him to run the kind of campaign in Battle River Crowfoot that he needs to be able to run, that is just a purely name ID campaign.
You're living in a fantasy land. He was winning no matter what. He was, no matter what.
He was, but giving voters the option to put his name, to check his name or check Bonnie Critchley's name, there's the potential for it to be a 55-45 race when all things are square like that. For any of these, none of these candidates are going to be able to achieve the kind of name ID that Pierre Poilievre has. He is the national leader of a political party. He is going to be able to sweep to victory. This is going to help him survive his leadership review in January, because he's going to win 80-something% of the vote in an election conducted this way. And it's going to help him get the Conservative Party secured behind him.
I think you are basing assumption on assumption on assumption on assumption to the point where it's like, in this world, you're not giving voters enough credit that the difference between 80% of Pierre Poilievre vote and a 55% Poilievre, so 25% vote swing, just because instead of having 9 or 10 names on a ballot, you have 200, I think is I don't see any world where
I think it affects the turnout.
Random independent candidates affects that many votes.
No, I think it affects the turnout. I think that in a scenario where you have a bunch of the 200 names on a ballot, and you give people all of those choices with equal footing, and you let people just check where they're going to check, and you run it the way that any other election has been run, you end up in a situation where people recognize their neighbors' names as they're scanning the ballot and go, "Oh, I'm going to vote for Jim. He's a good guy."
You're not giving voters enough credit, in my opinion.
I think that the turnout is going to be low enough that a couple hundred votes happening like that, it could be that kind of factor difference. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in a couple of weeks we'll come back and say this was a week where Noam got his winner wrong. We've both had those weeks in the past. This might be one of mine, but I'm sticking to it for now.
I'm just Okay, I'll believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. But the problem is you can't see it because you can't know what the alternative situation would have been. So I get
Exactly.
to stay in my truth, which is
You
that
stay in your
the
truth,
voter
Isaac.
base is smart enough to know that their neighbor, like it's such like these are such fairy tales we're spinning. So
All right.
I'll continue to let it spin. But that's why we're here, right? So
That's why we're here. And honestly, I was struggling to come up with a winner this week.
no, stay 10
Uh,
tones down. We need the conflict. There needs
we
to
need
be some conflict. We
some
can't just every
conflict.
week you name your winner and I go, oh, that's a good winner. I name my
Yeah,
winner and you go,
no,
that's a good
this
winner.
is
We need
good. No,
stand 10 toes
I'm
down.
not saying I'm taking it back. I'm saying I think that he is a winner this week. And there wasn't another winner that I thought was a bigger winner than him. So I'm saying that on another week, something like this might not have been enough to get him a winner spot. On this week, for me, nobody else was a bigger winner than that. And so I think that is where I'm coming from on that.
Sounds good.
It'll be a fun clip though. All right. Loser. Who's your loser this week, Isaac?
My loser this week is Canada as a whole. We've spent decades as a country losing our independence. We never really had it. You know, we were tied to the UK. We then just kind of severed ourselves to become more tied with America economically, socially, culturally. And I think we continually in our history see the consequences of this this action of not, you know, I remember in history class, you know, there's like stories we tell ourselves, like when you're taking like grade 10 Canadian history, and it's like, with this decision, Canada proved itself an independent nation. And I'm like, I don't think Canada still has proved itself an independent nation. I think, and we're seeing the results of that with being able to be at the whims of a U.S. president like we have been proven to be this week. So there you go. Canada's my loser this week.
That's fair. That's a good one. My loser this week is Donald John Trump. I think that he really hurt himself this week. I think that this tariff action is going to really bite him in the butt. I think because I am less convinced than you that it's going to be a fully short-term thing, I think that what's going to happen is as it stretches longer and longer and as people feel the more impact from it, and as he potentially digs in his toes around it, as his instinct often is, despite the taco of it all, I think that he will continue to be hurt politically. I think that there are Democrats who are starting to, more and more of them are starting to wake up on how to correctly fight right now. And I think that as that continues, as we approach 2026, in coordination with the tariffs, his polling is already really, really bad. If the Democrats weren't polling worse than him right now, the talk would be that it was in disaster areas for him for 2026 and for the Republicans in 2028. And so I think that, you know, even if the Democrats don't fully improve, there's going to be such a backlash as the economy really starts to suffer. There are so many states where Canada is the number one trading partner, and they are all going to be hurt economically by this. And Trump isn't going to see the kinds of benefits from the tariffs that he's been promising people. And so, in coordination with all of that, I think it really puts him on track to be a pretty significant loser.
Fair loser. And I will say to your loser pick, totally deserved.
All right. Sounds good. We agreed on one and disagreed on one of my picks. All right. Thanks for joining us this week for No Power Panel. Please join us again next week as we hear from Yves Engler on his campaign to be the next leader of Canada's NDP.
Thanks.
Have a great week.